You know, usually when we talk about a medical treatment, there's this expectation of clinical precision.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like pure engineering.
Right. You get an infection, your doctor prescribes a specific antibiotic, and you just sort of assume that chemical molecule is the sole hero of the story. It's clean, it's simple. You take the drug does the work.
Yeah, but that is really just the illusion of the pharmacy counter. I mean, we are totally conditioned to look at the label, read the active ingredient, and think, well, that's the entire equation.
Which it isn't.
Not at all. Because the moment you swallow that pill or, apply that patch, you are introducing a highly specific chemical into what is basically the ultimate biological obstacle course.
And suddenly that clean engineering blueprint is just thrown completely out the window. So welcome to this deep dive. Today we're exploring a hidden science that fundamentally shatters how we think about our prescriptions. Because it turns out how a drug enters your body can actually matter just as much as, or sometimes even more than, the drug itself.
Right. A medication is truly only as good as its journey. And altering that journey, even by like a millimeter or a few minutes, can mean the difference between a life-saving cure, a completely useless pill, or, tragically, a fatal overdose.
Exactly. So today, for you listening, our mission is to explore this fascinating and honestly sometimes baffling world of routes of drug administration. We're going to guide you through how the physical path a medicine takes dictates its speed, its absorption, and its ultimate effect on you. And joining me to decode these medical blueprints is our resident expert. We've got a massive amount of ground to cover today.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled to be unpacking this. It's a topic that quietly dictates, well, pretty much every single medical decision made, whether you are in a trauma bay or just standing in front of your own bathroom medicine cabinet at 2 in the morning.
So let's start with the history, because the way we used to deliver medicine was pretty straightforward, right? Like for millennia, if an ancient Greek or Egyptian physician wanted to treat you, they basically just relied on your digestive tract.
Pretty much, yeah. You swallowed a remedy, crossed your fingers, and just hope for the best. Oral dosing is practically as old as humanity itself.
Right.
Because for the vast majority of our history, treating an internal ailment meant going through the mouth and the gut. The digestive system was really the only doorway we understood.
So the whole trajectory of modern medicine didn't shift until we figured out how to bypass the gut.
Exactly. And that took centuries of trial, error, and some genuinely terrifying experiments.
I can imagine. When did that shift actually happen? Because we obviously didn't go straight from herbal teas to like a sterilized IV drip overnight.
No, definitely not. The pivotal moment happened way back in 1656. This was just a few decades after the physician William Harvey had finally mapped out how blood circulates through the human body in a continuous loop.
Oh, okay. So once they realized blood was this transit system, they wanted to use it.
Right, they immediately wanted to tap into it. So at Oxford, the famous architect Christopher Wren and the scientist Robert Boyle actually teamed up to attempt exactly that.
Wait, Christopher Wren, the architect?
Yeah.
Like the guy who designed St. Paul's Cathedral? What was he doing tapping into blood vessels?
He was experimenting on the bleeding edge of 17th century science, I guess you could say. So they took a goose quill, attached it to an animal bladder, and used that crude device to inject opium and other substances directly into the veins of dogs.
A literal goose quill.
Yeah.
That is equal parts fascinating and completely terrifying.
Oh, it was incredibly dangerous. When they eventually moved to early human trials of intravenous therapy, which actually included animal-to-human blood transfusions in the 1660s, it routinely killed patients.
Wow.
In fact, these IV experiments were considered so deadly, they were banned in several countries for nearly 2 centuries. The underlying theory was sound, but the technology was nowhere near ready.
Right. They just didn't have the tools. So there was this massive gap in progress. When did the technology finally catch up? Because the syringe is such a ubiquitous part of medicine today.
Yeah, so the breakthrough didn't happen until the 1850s. A physician in Edinburgh named Alexander Wood and a French surgeon named Charles Prévost independently developed the hollow needle syringe around 1853.
Okay.
But what is truly remarkable is the specific reason Wood developed his version. He was treating patients with severe nerve pain, and he basically wanted to inject morphine directly next to the painful nerves, believing it would provide strictly localized relief.
Okay, let's unpack this. So Alexander Wood basically invented the modern syringe, thinking it was a localized sniper rifle for pain, but it turned out to be a systemic shotgun.
The ultimate systemic shotgun.
Yeah.
He incorrectly assumed that by injecting the drug right near the site of the pain, its effects would remain confined to that localized tissue.
But the body had other plans.
Biology had a completely different agenda, exactly. The morphine bypassed the slow filter of the digestive tract, hit the bloodstream directly, and rapidly circulated straight to the brain. So he accidentally discovered that injected morphine produced profound, full-body systemic effects.
Which I imagine completely reshaped how they understood things like addiction.
It changed the rules of engagement overnight. They were suddenly dealing with rapid onset addiction and fatal respiratory depression because, well, they had inadvertently removed all the body's natural speed bumps.
It seems like early doctors were observing all these massive differences in how drugs behaved based on how they were given, but they were just flying blind. Like they didn't have a structured way to measure any of this.
They didn't. They were entirely reliant on just clinical observation until 1953. That year, a German pharmacologist named Friedrich Hartmut-Dost coined the term pharmacokinetics.
Pharmacokinetics, okay.
Right, which finally gave the medical field the mathematical framework to quantify what clinicians had been seeing since Wood's syringe. So if pharmacology is the study of what the drug does to the body, pharmacokinetics is the study of what the body does to the drug.
And that completely changes how we classify REAPs today, right? Because in the beginning, the word parenteral just meant anything involving a needle. I think it literally translates from Greek as beside the intestine. It just meant, not swallowed.
Exactly, but the definition has expanded dramatically since then. As we developed inhalers and transdermal patches and complex nasal sprays, simply categorizing things as needle or no needle just wasn't enough anymore.
Right.
Modern regulators, like the FDA, now view the specific microscopic formulation of a drug as a pharmacokinetically distinct route.
Wait, so the physical design of the pill itself is considered a route?
Absolutely. Take a standard oral medication. You might have an extended release tablet and an immediate release tablet that contain the exact same chemical molecule. But because the extended release tablet is engineered to dissolve slowly over, say, 12 hours, it behaves so differently in your bloodstream that regulators treat it as an entirely different route of administration.
Wow. So treating the physical formulation as an afterthought is basically a massive rookie mistake in modern medicine.
Huge mistake, yes.
So let's talk about why we go to such great lengths to engineer these complex delivery systems in the first place. Because let's face it, swallowing a pill is easy for you. Getting a shot is not. So why avoid the intestine? Like, what actually happens to a pill after you swallow it?
Well, when you swallow a drug, it doesn't just casually float into your general bloodstream to go do its job. It gets absorbed across the lining of the gut into a network of blood vessels, and all of those vessels converge and drain directly into something called the portal vein.
The portal vein.
Right. Think of the portal vein as an express funnel, routing all that newly absorbed material straight to the liver before it is allowed to go anywhere else in the body.
Ah, so the liver gets first dibs on whatever you swallow.
It does. The liver is the body's primary chemical processing plant, and its main job is to protect you from toxins. This process is known as first-pass metabolism.
First pass.
Yeah. Many drugs are partially, or sometimes even almost completely, destroyed by the liver enzymes during this first pass before they ever reach your heart, your brain, or whatever the target organ is.
I was reading about nitroglycerin in this context.
Yeah.
It is such an extreme example of this filter in action. Because it's a medication used to treat angina, right? That severe chest pain people get when their heart isn't getting enough blood. But if you simply swallow a nitroglycerin pill, the liver just aggressively breaks it down.
The liver is so efficient at dismantling oral nitroglycerin that swallowing the pill renders it practically useless. I mean, almost none of the active drug survives to reach the heart. But if you place that exact same nitroglycerin tablet sublingually, meaning under the tongue, you change its fate entirely. The tissue under your tongue is rich with capillaries that actually drain into the superior vena cava, which is a major vein that goes straight to the heart.
Completely bypassing the portal vein in the liver.
A total geographical bypass. The drug hits the systemic circulation instantly, relieving that severe chest pain in just 1 to 3 minutes. Same molecule, same dose. Wildly different outcome purely because of where it entered the body.
It's like the liver is a highly aggressive bouncer at the nightclub of your bloodstream. With some drugs, like the beta blocker propranolol, it seems like the bouncer's just tossing everyone out. Propranolol gets 90% of its friends to the front door of the gut, but the liver confiscates almost all of them before they can actually hit the dance floor.
I love that analogy. It's so accurate. Propranolol is highly effective at crossing the intestinal wall. It is well over 90% absorbed. But as it passes through the liver's toll booth on that first pass, The liver extracts so much of it that only about 25% actually reaches the systemic circulation intact.
Just 25%.
Yeah, and this is why pharmacologists draw a hard line between a drug being absorbed and a drug being bioavailable.
Okay, so bioavailability is the amount of the drug that actually survives the gauntlet and makes it to the bloodstream to do its job.
Precisely. And this dictates clinical decisions every single day. The route dictates the drug's fate just as much as the milligram dose does.
But the liver isn't the only gauntlet, is it? I
No.
mean, to even get to the liver, a swallowed pill has to survive the stomach. And the stomach is quite literally a vat of acid and enzymes designed to destroy organic material.
It's an incredibly hostile environment, and insulin is a perfect case study in the limitations of trying to go through it. Insulin is a peptide hormone, so structurally, it's a protein.
And our digestive system has absolutely no respect for how important a therapeutic protein might be to our survival.
None whatsoever. The stomach and small intestine are lined with proteases, which are enzymes whose entire evolutionary mandate is to chop proteins into basic amino acids so we can absorb them as food. They possess this absolute indifference to therapeutic intent.
Indifference to therapeutic intent.
Yeah, they cannot distinguish between a life-saving dose of a peptide hormone and a protein-heavy lunch.
So if a diabetic patient tries to, say, swallow a vial of insulin,
Their stomach just treats it like a snack. It digests it into useless amino acids. Therefore, insulin must completely bypass the digestive tract to survive.
right,
It relies on the subcutaneous route, so injected into the fat layer under the skin, or it's given intravenously in a hospital emergency. Creating a reliable oral insulin pill has been a multi-decade engineering nightmare, specifically because we are basically fighting millions of years of digestive evolution.
wow. So the stomach acts as an incinerator for proteins, making it a miracle anything gets to it all. But let's say a drug isn't a protein. It survives the stomach acid and gets absorbed. It still has to face that liver bouncer we talked about.
Okay.
And that ongoing gauntlet creates a massive challenge for dosing, notoriously known in hospitals as the morphine penalty, right?
Yes, the morphine penalty perfectly illustrates the cost of doing business with the liver. Because of that brutal first-pass metabolism, oral morphine requires a roughly threefold higher dose to achieve the same pain relief as intravenous morphine.
You literally have to send 3 times as many troops into the gut just to ensure enough survive the liver to reach the brain.
It's just a numbers game. You have to overwhelm the liver's metabolic capacity with a massive quantity just to get a therapeutic fraction through to the systemic circulation.
So what does this all actually mean for a patient? If I'm, say, recovering from surgery in the hospital on an IV morphine drip, and the doctor sends me home with oral pills, giving me the exact same milligram dose is actually dangerous, right?
No.
Because it won't provide enough pain relief.
It is a massive safety hazard during transitions of care. If you are discharged on the same numerical milligram dose orally that you are receiving directly into your vein, you are going to experience a severe, dangerous relapse in pain.
Because the liver is eating it all.
Exactly. Your liver is now destroying 2/3 of the medicine you used to be getting in full. This is why hospitals rely on strict oral to IV conversion ratios. What's fascinating here is that intravenous administration is the 100% absolute reference standard for bioavailability.
Because FAV skips the stomach acid, skips the gut wall, and skips the liver's bouncer entirely.
Yes, it's the only route that guarantees the entire administered dose enters the bloodstream with 0 losses. Every other delivery method in medicine is basically measured against that flawless 5V standard.
This all makes perfect sense when these complex delivery systems are used as the engineers intended. But things take a very dark turn when these meticulously designed routes are subverted. And the opioid crisis, specifically regarding OxyContin, is a stark reminder of this.
It is. It's a tragic, real-world demonstration of how altering the route fundamentally alters the risk profile. So the original formulation of OxyContin was engineered as an extended-release oral tablet of oxycodone. The specific intent was a slow, controlled oral route that absorbed steadily over 12 hours to manage chronic pain.
But the users figured out that crushing the tablet completely destroyed that extended release mechanism.
Right. By crushing the pill, they bypassed the physical formulation entirely. The drug was no longer slow release. Individuals could swallow, snort, or dissolve and inject the full 12-hour dose all at once.
Wow.
They essentially converted a slow, controlled oral route into a rapid onset, highly dangerous parenteral equivalent route. This wasn't just, a minor issue. The subversion of the intended route became the central battleground of a massive public health crisis.
Uh-huh.
In 2010, the manufacturer actually had to reformulate OxyContin into a harder, gel-forming tablet specifically to resist this kind of physical crushing and injection.
It's really sobering to think that the exact same molecule goes from being a regulated therapy to a lethal threat just by bypassing its intended physical route. And this vulnerability isn't just an issue with pills. We see bizarre route complications with transdermal patches, too, like fentanyl patches.
We do. Fentanyl patches are sophisticated tools designed to slowly release a powerful opioid through the skin over roughly 72 hours. But severe misuse like cutting the patch, chewing it, or even applying a heating pad over it to force faster absorption through the skin has caused countless fatal overdoses. The FDA has repeatedly issued black box warnings about their disposal and application.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If someone is wearing a fentanyl patch and starts showing signs of an overdose, taking the patch off doesn't instantly hit the brakes on the drug. I mean, that completely goes against all common sense.
It is one of the most counterintuitive aspects of pharmacokinetics. You naturally assume that removing the physical source stops the flow.
Right, turning off a faucet.
Exactly. But remember the acronym ADME that pharmacologists use: absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion. When you wear a transdermal fentanyl patch, the drug doesn't just teleport straight into a vein. It migrates into the subcutaneous fat layer beneath your skin first.
Oh, so it creates a reservoir inside your body before it even reaches the blood.
A physical depot in your fat tissue, yes. Your own body temporarily becomes part of the delivery system. The fat absorbs the fentanyl and then slowly leaches it into the surrounding capillaries over time.
Wow.
So even after you rip the patch off and throw it in the trash, that depot of drug trapped in your fat continues releasing into your bloodstream for hours. Overdose symptoms can persist or even escalate long after the physical patch is gone.
That is terrifying. It really highlights how complex the human body's interaction with these delivery mechanisms is. And, it's not always intentional misuse that causes problems either. Sometimes the generic engineering of a route just fails on its own, like the Budeprion XL recall in 2012.
Oh, yeah. That case sent shockwaves through regulatory science. So the FDA ended up pulling a generic version of the popular antidepressant Wellbutrin XL, which was marketed as Budeprion XL.
Yeah.
Anatomically, it was the exact same route, an oral pill you swallow.
Right.
But post-marketing clinical testing proved that the generic formulation released the drug into the blood significantly faster than the brand name version.
So even though you were swallowing it the exact same way, the formulation difference effectively made it a different route biologically.
Yep. The real-world kinetic profile was altered enough that patients were experiencing different efficacy and severe side effects. It cemented the modern regulatory reality that you cannot separate the chemical from its physical formulation.
And we also see tragic errors simply from hospital confusion over these physical formulations. Insulin is a classic example of this.
It is. Hospital safety organizations universally classify insulin as a high-alert medication. The chemical molecule is the same, but the concentration and the route are highly variable.
Right.
Mixing up standard U100 insulin with highly concentrated U500 insulin, or, accidentally giving a dose intended for the subcutaneous fat directly into a patient's vein intravenously, those are leading causes of severe medical harm. The chemical doesn't change, but altering the route or the concentration changes everything.
Okay, so given how incredibly complex this is, it makes sense that there are so many common medical myths surrounding how we take our medicine. Let's bust a few of them. Myth number 1. 4 is always the fastest. I have to admit, I would have bet my life that mainlining a drug straight into a vein is the absolute fastest way to get it to work. How can anything possibly beat mainlining it straight into a vein?
It's an incredibly common assumption, even among some healthcare students. 4 is unequivocally the fastest way to get a guaranteed complete dose into the bloodstream. But getting to the blood is not the same as getting to the target. 4 is not always the fastest way to achieve a clinical effect.
So there's a difference between transit time and arrival time at the actual organ that needs the help.
Exactly. Take inhaled drugs, for example. Think of albuterol for an asthma attack, or inhaled anesthetics used in a surgical suite. When you inhale those medications, you are applying the drug directly to the site of action, the vast surface area of the lungs, or the rapid gas exchange pathway leading immediately to the brain.
So you're skipping the commute entirely.
You can produce a profound clinical effect within a single breath. That is arguably faster than an IV push, because an intravenous drug still has to circulate systemically.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it goes into a vein in your arm, travels up to your heart, gets pumped through the lungs, back to the heart, and finally pumped out through the arteries to the target organ. Inhaled routes act almost instantaneously because they operate right at the site of absorption.
Mind blown. Okay, myth number 2. If a route isn't working well, a higher dose will fix it.
This myth completely ignores the stark reality of human physiology during a medical crisis. So let's say someone is in severe hypovolemic shock, or they have major trauma, burns, or severe dehydration. In those states, their blood pressure plummets.
Okay.
To protect the vital organs like the brain and heart, the body fiercely restricts blood flow to the peripheral skin and muscle tissue.
It essentially boards up the windows and shuts down the non-essential transit routes.
Exactly. The local tissue perfusion drops to near zero. So if a paramedic gives a drug intramuscularly into the shoulder or subcutaneously under the skin during severe shock, the drug will literally just sit trapped in that tissue. It won't be absorbed because there is no active blood flow to carry it away to the rest of the body.
Oh, wow.
You could double or triple the injected dose and it wouldn't change a thing.
The train station is completely closed. No trains are leaving.
The drug is biologically unavailable until the patient's general circulation improves. This physiological lockdown is the core reason why emergency medicine algorithms default to intravenous or intraosseous routes, meaning drilling directly into the bone marrow for critically ill patients. Those routes bypass the need for local tissue perfusion and force the drug directly into the central vital circulation.
Which brings us to myth number 3, and this one is a bit uncomfortable but clinically fascinating. The idea that rectal administration is just a crude, unscientific last resort when you can't find a vein.
It definitely suffers from a stigma, but the rectal route actually relies on brilliant pharmacokinetic logic.
Really?
Yeah, the venous drainage system from the lower rectum is unique. Those specific veins flow directly into the systemic circulation. They entirely bypass the portal system we talked about earlier.
Wait, so it completely skips the liver's toll booth?
It offers a very effective, partial first-pass bypass. This isn't just about finding any available port in a storm during an emergency. This anatomical shortcut is exactly why rectal diazepam is a scientifically sound, standard emergency protocol for treating prolonged pediatric seizures when IV access isn't immediately available.
Wow.
It delivers the anticonvulsant to the brain rapidly without the drug being destroyed by the liver first.
That is incredible. The anatomy itself provides a backdoor. And you see this intense calculation of route playing out in everyday consumer health, too, not just in hospitals, right?
Oh, for sure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, once you understand the mechanics, you realize that every route selection is a highly calculated trade-off between biology, convenience, and safety.
Like the EpiPen. It uses an intramuscular injection deep into the thigh, specifically to bypass a gut that might be severely compromised by anaphylactic shock.
Exactly. Or Narcan, the opioid overdose antidote. It was brilliantly engineered as a nasal spray so that panicked, untrained bystanders could administer a life-saving reversal agent in seconds without needing to hunt for a vein or handle a needle.
And even on a global scale, the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines, they were given intramuscularly in the deltoid, not just because the shoulder shot is convenient, but because muscle tissue has a rich blood and lymphatic supply. It produces a robust, localized immune response while minimizing systemic side effects.
A route choice that had direct, measurable consequences for a global pandemic response.
So, bringing this all together, we've gone from Christopher Wren hacking into a dog's bloodstream with a goose quill in the 1600s to the modern regulatory understanding that a drug's physical formulation is completely inseparable from its biological route.
It's been quite the journey.
We've seen how the liver acts as this brutal first-pass toll booth, destroying swallowed meds, and how lack of tissue perfusion can leave an injected drug stranded and useless in an emergency.
It really completely reframes how you look at the pharmacy counter. You are never just taking a chemical. You are initiating a highly orchestrated physiological journey.
It really does. But before we wrap up, where is this science actually going? Because listening to all this, it feels like we spend an enormous amount of time and money just trying to fight the body's natural defenses.
Yeah, it's the central tension of modern pharmacology, and it leaves us with a really provocative thought to mull over. Earlier, we talked about insulin and how the stomach's proteases have this brutal indifference to therapeutic intent. They just digest the medicine like a piece of steak.
Right.
For decades, the pharmaceutical industry has tried to brute force drugs through that digestive system.
Right, like trying to make the pill casing tougher or just ramping the dose higher and higher to see what survives.
Exactly. But if regulatory science now considers the microscopic formulation to be the actual route of administration, perhaps the next great era of medicine won't be about discovering new chemicals at all.
Oh,
What if the future of pharmacology is entirely about creating microscopic, physical Trojan horses? Formulations engineered so cleverly at a molecular level that they finally trick our body's ancient, brutal defense systems into welcoming the very medicines they currently destroy. Imagine an oral insulin capsule that the stomach actually recognizes as a friend rather than food.
a Trojan horse for the gut. I mean, that completely circles back to where we started. The X-ray is murky, the human body is a hostile, messy obstacle course, but the bioengineering is getting incredibly smart. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you stay curious and maybe view your next prescription pill, patch, or nasal spray with a newfound respect for the epic journey it's about to take.